Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is Gerald Celente with the judge and Judge Andrew Napolitano. Nobody anywhere says what he says with the authority and judicial background. What you're hearing from the judge, you don't hear from anywhere else. And the topics that we cover are very important to our lives for freedom, peace, and liberty. And the judge is a real warrior of freedom, a man of peace. And boy, oh boy, does he defend justice. So thank you, Judge, for being with us today. And you have a new article out. And again, what you're writing each week is everybody should know this. Biden, fat-mouthed Biden, a little boy who did everything he could to beat the Vietnam War draft, got a bunch of deferments, ended up with a 1Y. But boy, does he talk tough. We got to fight. And you know that guy over there, that Putin? He's a war criminal. He's a butcher. Oh, yeah, maybe he should join the Butchers Club. And you write about some of them here. Biden was one of them. Wasn't a war that guy didn't like. And who's another one? The torturer-in-chief, George W. Bush, a daddy's boy, a little arrogant daddy's boy, born on third base and thought he had a home run, a murderous torturer. Tell us more about the article that you wrote.
Well, and good morning, Gerald. It's always a pleasure to be with you, my dear, wonderful friend, no matter what we're talking about. I want to give you a little bit of a background because I had on Judging Freedom two people that are huge admirers of yours, and through your auspices was able to interview them, Colonel Doug McGregor and the great Phil Girardi. Everybody listening to us knows who they are. McGregor, a career military, speaks to peace from a military perspective. Yeah. Giraldi, career CIA, quit the CIA when he knew that George W. Bush was lying about the justification for invading Iraq. 2 weeks ago, they were each on with me separately, and I said to them the same question. What do you think Antony Blinken, Secretary of State, really wants out of this Ukraine-Russian war? They both said the same thing. Regime change in Moscow. Then last weekend, I hear Biden say Putin doesn't deserve to be in office, and I'm thinking, these two guys are right. Biden can't keep his mouth shut. The globalists that surround him secretly want a war in the hopes that they can get rid of Putin in office. I just wanted to put that out there before we get into George W. Right after 9/11, instead of charging the 9/11 mastermind, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and his four colleagues who planned and plotted and financed the whole thing, in federal district court in Washington, in New York, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where their crimes of murder were committed, they open up a Devil's Island in Guantanamo Bay. They torture the daylights out of these guys at foreign prisons. They ship them to Guantanamo Bay and announce that they're going to keep them there forever until a team of FBI agents shows up to start interviewing them. And the first thing the FBI says is, by the way, you guys know you're entitled to lawyers. They get lawyers. The lawyers file documents revealing the torture. Bush's people say, we can do what we want. It's not the United States. The Constitution doesn't apply. The federal laws don't apply. The federal judges don't have jurisdiction. The Supreme Court, in 5 out of 6 cases, says you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Now they have to prepare for trial. The evidence they have, they've obtained illegally. The military judges are ruling, if somebody takes the witness stand who says they were tortured, I'm going to let them subpoena the torturer and the records of the torture. So now the government is confronted with somebody who's been there for 20 years, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the self-admitted mastermind, the acknowledged by the government mastermind, and they're negotiating a plea agreement with him because they're afraid to try him, because they're afraid of what he'll say on the witness stand about what the CIA did to torture him. That is the jurisprudential mess that George W. Bush made out of his Devil's Island, 90 miles off the coast of Key West.
The Devil's Island, huh? So this place, Guantanamo, that's in Cuba, right?
Yes.
How dare those Russians want Crimea? You know, that's always been with Russia forever. And it was only made up with Khrushchev when he was drunk and did that deal, according to McGregor. And, but the United States, it's okay for the United States to have a prison, a torturous prison in Cuba. I know. God gave us that land, right? I think it's in the, I think it's the 12th commandment.
States.
What?
Listen to this. We have Guantanamo Bay under a 99-year lease. It expired 30 years ago. We're still there. Because you're right. The American culture is that we are exceptional, and whatever we do is correct, and we can steal all the land and crush all the liberty we want as long as we do it in the name of the red, white, and blue.
It's not the American culture, Judge. It's the culture of these psychopaths, these sociopaths, these pathological liars, these little arrogant boys and girls that people call politicians.
Yes.
Look at, talking about politicians, politics, many ticks. Look at Trump. Biden. The guy's been sucking off the public tit his whole life. What, for 50 years?
Yes.
50 years. What are we doing in Guantanamo? That if all these fat mouths are shooting off about what Russia's doing, what the hell right do you have to be in Guantanamo?
George Bush's Devil's Island costs the taxpayers $100 million a year. $100 million a year. If these people had been tried in federal court and either convicted or acquitted, the prison would have been shut down by now and all this nonsense would have been over with. But his passion for torture, and I got to believe that the torture was animated by his sidekick, Dick Cheney. Their passion for torture is what has destroyed their ability to prosecute people as to whom the evidence of guilt is overwhelming, but they can't present it in a court because the defense will consist of documents showing that Bush and Cheney personally